I'm going to be talking about user onboarding. So you've heard lots of stories and stories about building companies, and I felt like I'd just chuck a curveball in and go a bit product-y. My background is very much in product design and product management, and I love talking about this stuff. So I thought I'd just talk a bit about how we've done user onboarding at GoSquared. We've onboarded tens of thousands of customers into the GoSquared platform over the years we've been running GoSquared. I don't really regard us as experts, but we've learned a lot. We've made a lot of mistakes, and hopefully I can share some of them with you. So in listicle BuzzFeed style, we've got 9 steps to better onboarding. You won't believe what happened next. Oh God, I paused that up. Anyway, yeah. So what is user onboarding? I found a very dry definition from the Collins English Dictionary. The management of the early stages of a relationship between a business and a customer. Yeah, that's exciting. I've actually found a much better explanation of user onboarding, and I turned to one of the best game shows in the world, and it is Takeshi's Castle. And I think this pretty nicely sums up user onboarding, actually. I think the game is called like Skipping Stones or Stepping Stones. Anyway, logically, yeah, you have to get to the other side without breaking your neck. Yeah, that is kind of what user onboarding is all about. It's very hard. We all struggle with it as people building software products. We fight all day, every day to get users to sign up for our products. And they go and hit that join form, they sign up, woo, conversion, we got signups. And then they try and get into your product, and it's almost always hard. No one has 100% conversion from new user to activated user, or if anyone does, please share me what you're doing. But when people think about user onboarding, they often get quite isolated and think about specific little things, but actually it's kind of, in my eyes, user onboarding is everything. It's not just about like the interface of the app, it's about so much more than that. It's really from like step 1, when they first see your website, through to the point of them being a happy, successful onboarded customer. So what I wanted to do is just talk about how you can make your onboarding suck a bit less, and high expectations of this talk. So I want to talk about states, not the United States, but states of your app. And everyone, yeah, I know, thank you so much. So everyone always focuses on the awesome state, the state of their app where it's got full of data, added all their team members, everything's set up. And a lot of people build products that they want to use themselves. I know we do that. We build GoSquared. We build it as the platform we want to use. And so naturally we use it every day. And when we use it every day, we're fully set up. We've gone through that onboarding flow. We've entered our data. We've got our tracking set up. And so we spend all of our time thinking about this and designing this and talking about how this is imperfect and how we can make it better. But we always forget about 2 other key states. One of them is the error state. And these are screens that people always forget, like error 402, what the hell? Whereas, what does a human understand from that error? No one knows. But then the thing I want to talk about, which is more the empty state, like what does the state look like before you got any data in there? And that's always forgotten. And that's kind of where there's so many holes. It's often like when people sign up, they're just like, they don't even get anywhere, right? It's just, well, yeah. And so that would be my first message, just like think about those empty states, think about those other states. They might be less exciting, but thinking about them as well as the awesome state is definitely healthy. Point 2 was to think about onboarding not just as states, but as a flow, as a series of states, as a series of screens. And thinking about, okay, we've got the empty state, but what is the process? What is the transition from that empty state to the awesome state? And also, what is the process to get to that empty state in the first place? Like, what do they see on the homepage? What messaging do they see on that first screen they view? What do they see on the join form? What do they see when they first get into the app? And then what do they see in the awesome state? Like, you want to be thinking about this as a flow. And it's so easy, especially as designers, to get obsessed with the details in Photoshop or in Sketch and thinking about how that little button and the box shadow and the font is going to be. But you totally forget about the flow. And so whenever doing this, just don't even start adding any gradients or colors or anything. Just think about, okay, if I'm designing this, what comes before it? What's the user going to do before it? What's the user going to do after it? And that will get you a long way. And then you can go even further with an even further, more magical magic move and think about what the user is even thinking before they get to your homepage and when they're going into this flow. It's very easy to just think that, you know, someone signed up for my product, they must love us, right? They must be so excited to use us. But what you don't realize is someone might be having a really shit day. Someone might be told by their boss to go sign up for 10 different tools. What is the mindset of that user in when they're even coming to your homepage? They're not necessarily in, oh, I love this product, I must sign up. They could be in a whole range of moods. So thinking about that and anticipating that will help you go a long way in making sure that flow doesn't alienate them, doesn't put them off, and addresses their concerns. A good little example actually is for us ourselves. I mean, I can talk about GoSquared because I know this quite well. I've heard of them at least. And the onboarding flow we've always had is, you know, to use GoSquared, you have to install this piece of JavaScript on your site. And for ages and ages and ages, we always had a very techie audience, so developers would be fine with that. You know, they'd be like, oh, JavaScript, yeah, I love this. And then we started seeing more and more marketing people signing up and salespeople signing up for GoSquared, and they don't know JavaScript. So just a very simple thing, we added a little button to email your developer and tell someone about it. And it was just little things like that, you know, that's a button. I think it's a mail to link. It's really simple, but suddenly we just removed that brick wall or that stepping stone or gap of water. I don't know what the analogy is, but we removed that blocker that was holding back marketing and salespeople a little bit and just making it a bit easier. Another example, another small startup, you might have heard of them, called Slack. I hear they're doing all right. They have such an incredible onboarding flow. It's like, oh my god, onboarding heaven. It's amazing. And anyway, their homepage is nice, great, cool, but their onboarding flow, and I may have changed a little bit since this, but for a while, like, they just ask you for so little at each step, but there's a few steps, they get you in, but then this is where it's like, oh my god, because they get you into the product and you start onboarding yourself in the product, you're learning the product and you're typing away, you're using Slack, but you're onboarding yourself and your head explodes. It's such a nice experience, and they just get you in so quickly, and before you know it, you're an expert at the product. And this is kind of what we all dream of. It's only possible with certain products, but that kind of like intelligence, just thinking about it so deeply. Like, they took a lot of engineering effort to get to that. But thinking about, you know, it's always a trade-off. Doing that, like spending that much energy on onboarding versus spending that energy on building out, I don't know, voice over IP calling at that stage. I mean, there's no one reason why Slack's a successful business. There's multiple, but things like this, I think, help explain a lot of how they've got to where they are. Step 3, reduce the number of steps, trying to cut down all those barriers. Like, if you can get to wow as soon as possible, thinking about your product and thinking about the ideally as great an experience as you can think of in your product. Like, for instance, for GoSquared, it's like seeing data in your account, seeing users showing up. Getting people to that as quickly as possible is critical. People seem to think they have like endless amounts of time to convince a user to engage and activate, but in reality, you have like one shot, you have one session, and people are probably on their phone, they've probably got Reddit open in another tab, they've probably got a team member talking to them on Slack, and you're just fighting for that attention. If you don't get them on that first session, they're gone. They're gone forever. That's the assumption you kind of have to make. So you have to get them to that wow moment on that first session as quickly as possible. Whether you fake it, whether you magicify it, I don't know, but like, it's an engineering challenge, but it's what you want to be aiming for. You have to focus as much as possible. And you need to just think about all of those steps and think about how to cut them down. Like, each step is basically like a hurdle, and I suck at hurdles. So you have to kind of cut those hurdles down. So like, every screen, every state, everything you're making them jump through, just making it one as easy and frictionless, but ideally cutting as many of them out as possible. Like another, also like kind of touches on the point earlier, but when you think about that funnel as well, like we spend all of our time on this final state, like where the awesome stuff is happening, like the product is fully set up and all of our engineering effort goes there. But the number of people that see that is tiny often in comparison to the number of people that see those first steps. And every step there's drop off, like without fail, almost every business there is drop off. So it's thinking about reducing the number of steps and reducing the friction on each one. A great example of this is an app called Sunrise, which I cry a little bit every day because Sunrise doesn't exist anymore. But Sunrise sold to Microsoft for, I don't know, some amount of money. It was a really, really nice app, but they had such a great example of reducing the steps to get value from the product. This, I think, was their homepage. You can see the product behind the homepage. It's like basically there. And all you have to do is connect with Google or Facebook. It's just so simple. Like, that's all I need to do. It's teasing you and it's making you want to get there. So all you have to do is a short like Google thing and add your calendar in, and suddenly you've got, by the way, Sunrise is a calendaring app, and yeah, but it's just such a great example of, like, you know, when you think of the other flows they could have there, they could have some fancy marketing page with stock photography, and they could make you go through 4 sign-up forms and ask you for Google Connect on like the 3rd step, and then ask you a load of questions and tick boxes and ask you all this stuff. But no, you're in, boom, 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 and you're there. And great, and probably one of the reasons why Microsoft wanted to buy them. I don't know. So yeah, step 4, setting sensible defaults. This kind of comes into the whole reducing the number of steps. You know, try and avoid all the options you give your users. Every single option you're giving them is not just a binary, oh, do I want to switch this thing on or off? It's I have to think about this, and I'm thinking about this, and I'm not on Reddit. And like, that's a trade-off in their mind. It's complexity, it's stuff that's preventing them from getting to your product. So another example of this, and again, it's in GoSquared, because we know what happened with this. We used to ask you to set your time zone, and that was a thing that, like, actually, I don't know what time zone I'm in. Like, the Greenwich thing, and what is that? Is that in the UK, or is it Great Britain, or is it England, or is it London? And you got to think about that stuff, and I don't know, what is the time now? I don't know. And that used to be a step, and some number of people got confused by that. Instead, we automatically detect it we automatically detect it. Magical. It's not perfect. Sometimes it gets it wrong, but like 95% of our users don't need to worry about that step. Probably more than 99, like 99.9% of our users don't need to worry about that step, and more of them get into the product, which is great. Step 5, gamify. We all love buzzwords. But yeah, gamification of onboarding, there's lots of studies around this. There's lots of people much smarter than me who know more about this. But very simply, like, are there ways you can incentivize people to onboard into your product? Are there ways you can make your onboarding fun, dare I say it? I know we're in B2B SaaS world, but can you make your onboarding fun? And I would argue yes. A very simple thing is just checklists. People love checklists. Like, they're not getting paid anything. They're just checking stuff off. It's their to-do list, but it's so good checking things off. So people love it. They get a little like dopamine hit, I think. Just see what can happen if you can boil your onboarding down into a set of steps. It's amazing how much further that can go than, say, paying people to do stuff or sending tons of emails. So yeah, I also wanted to find an excuse to put Apple in here. The idea of making onboarding fun or exciting or interesting, this is from when the Apple Watch edition existed. Gold Apple Watch obviously belongs to a painter, such a realistic portrayal of real life. But the Apple Watch onboarding is actually incredible because this is a real pain in the neck to set up, and it could be such a dull process. And an Apple Watch is pretty much useless unless it's tied to your phone. But Apple, I think, did a fantastic job at getting getting this onboarding process slick. But one of the coolest things, like there's a nice app on the phone, and it means you don't have to be poking around on the tiny screen, so that's all nice. But one of the coolest things is just they put so much effort into what is essentially a QR code. And I think it just goes a long way in showing like there are often ugly parts of onboarding and ugly parts of product design, and you can put work in to make it fun and exciting and nice. And yeah, so you just take a photo of the thing and it's, oh, nice, lovely. 6, as product designers, as people building an app, you're often very focused on these states in the app and every screen designing them, and you suddenly get so zoned in that like the world is in your app, and you totally forget that onboarding may happen over a period of days or weeks, and people are not in your app 24/7. How do you get to them outside of that? And it's so easy to forget about the ways you connect with customers beyond your product itself. And so I guess just something we see a lot is people forget that like emails are integral to the onboarding, and the way you communicate with users outside of the app is incredibly important. So making sure those emails are relevant, making sure to send, the classic, like send them at the right time with the right message, the right people, is so important. And try not to send too much. Don't be that patronizing, or don't be like begging. There's so much to figure out here. No one gets it right first time, but just keep iterating and experimenting. Also, like thinking about how mobile plays into this. A lot of us here sort of coming from desktop-focused backgrounds, but have recently introduced mobile applications, for instance. A common aspect of desktop web applications is the email notifications you send, and things like that, and thinking about how everything translates to mobile. People are on their mobile phones. All of the numbers say that mobile is like taking over the world. So thinking about the multiple devices someone might own, and they do, the average user expects a very consistent experience across all devices. So thinking about how that translates. Another good example, I know I already talked about Slack, but it's just really nice. They send you a nice little email like, oh, why am I not getting email notifications anymore? Oh, it's because I downloaded the app. And they make the assumption that you're going to prefer getting those notifications on the mobile app. It's just another really nice, slick, tiny little detail that makes the whole experience and the onboarding easier. Now this, I would argue this is the most actionable advice I can give like this week. And it is simply, if you have a product, actually who has their own like software as a service product right now? Okay, you came to the right event, this is good. Basically, how many of you have signed up for your own product in the last week? Well, one, no, a few. Okay, this is good. But yeah, basically everyone. But yeah, honestly, it's so simple. Like, just add an event to your calendar, and I try and do this, and I have got an event in my calendar. Signing up to your own product and just going through it as a first-time user on a regular basis is insanely valuable, because it gets you around that hurdle we talked about earlier on with just spending all your time in the awesome view. Like, you see all the warts and the holes and the problems and the chaos that first-time users go through, and you feel that pain. It's even better if you can get a totally independent third party to do this, or just some random person off the street and get them to do this, and you can watch them. But doing it yourself is the second best thing, I think, and there's no excuse for not doing that other than carving out a bit of time in your day. And it's really, really impactful. Measure your onboarding as well. Always helps, knowing what's going on. That whole quote of like, it's very hard to improve what you're not measuring. So focus on metrics that are actionable, not just nonsense bullshit metrics. And also importantly, like, everyone loves all the tools and like looking at graphs and shiny graphs, and they all go up and down and the graphs all go up, but it's great. But figuring out what a successfully onboarded user looks like is incredibly important. So just a couple of examples, like for us, making sure they've installed the tracking code is critical. But for someone like Twitter, they don't really care if someone signs up and just gets the app. I think Twitter early on decided that there's a strong correlation between people that follow more than 20 users in their first session, and having a great lifetime value, and being an active user and long-term user. Let's get people to follow 20 users so they get that experience as early as possible. And for Dropbox, Dropbox is That's Dropbox, the third one in my head at least. But Dropbox is really important, like for them. Dropbox is like kind of useless unless you have the app, but it's also kind of useless if you have the app and don't log in on the app. And so there's actually like a huge number of flows for like the average Dropbox user to activate. They need to sign up for a Dropbox account. They need to download the Dropbox app. They need to install the Dropbox app. They need to sign in on the Dropbox app and get it all working. Like there's so many steps, and they're not really activated until they've done that. And even then, they may not know what the hell Dropbox is, so they've got to. So it's just thinking about like what does an ideal activated customer look like, and figuring out the points along that journey to get them there. And that's hard. That's the hard bit. And then implementing metrics off the back of that can be a hell of a lot easier. Also, data. But cohort analysis. Cohort analysis helps you understand this. Cohorting by like sign up week or month really helps you to see whether you're actually improving or not. If you're looking at this as a whole, you're going to be totally confused and totally lost at sea, because any changes you make are probably going to have hardly any fluctuation, or things are going to change seemingly at random if you're not breaking things down by cohort. Hopefully super simple, but like just common sense. Also, just a couple of tools to go over. We just want to look at a few things. Marvel is really good for like mocking things up. There's also Envision. Marvel's a London-based software as a service company, so I'd like to support our homegrown talent here. But yeah, Marvel will help you like mock up wireframes and designs and make it clickable, so buttons that actually take you to different things. Marvel's great, and you can send the link to anyone. You can get feedback and comments, and you don't need to involve a developer or write any code. You just do a design. You can even do a design on paper, like sketch something out and click, click, click. Full Story is amazing for just seeing what people are doing in your app and understanding why they like hit the back button all the time. Live chat, I mean, GoSquared offers that, which is great, but talking to your users is really, really good, really important. There's a really nice, I think it's an open source project called Shepherd, but if you've ever seen those like things that guide you around your product and like say, oh, do this, and give you like a guided tour, Shepherd, I think, forget who makes it, but just look it up. Like it's one of those really handy libraries you can put into your app to help guide people around your product. And then Drip as well is a nice email service that can help you do sequenced emails like really easily. So that's cool. Bit of further reading if you want to do some homework. We've got, I think these might be, I'll send these links on Twitter or something later if you want, but there's a really good blog that's all about user onboarding. The people who run that are like way smarter and educated about this, but they like break apart different companies and their user onboarding flows, and it's fascinating just seeing how those how different products do user onboarding, because it varies a huge amount. And other cool stuff, like Andrew Chen's a really smart product person, and he has loads of great blog posts about how to think about product. Little Big Details is a really nice one as well, and it just focuses on, well, believe it or not, the little big details, the little details that make a big difference. So to conclude, think about the journey to onboarding. Sign up to your product regularly. Cut everything but the essentials in your onboarding flow. Get to wow ASAP. Measure by cohort. And you will do as well as this guy. Look at this. Is he going to do it? Is he going to do it? I think he might do it. Is he? Yeah. Will he? Oh. Yeah. Slow and, yeah, there we go. Okay, thank you everyone. That was user onboarding. Cool.